I was 16 when I first went on my solo trip to South America. Little did I realize then that that trip is going to change my life forever. It was a Rotary exchange program, and I was at a very impressionable age, and I hadn't even gone from my home to my tuition classes on my own before that. So it was a completely new experience for me, and I was a completely changed person after that trip. I came back to my home in Jamshedpur. I belong to the steel city of India, where you have only doctors and engineers and very typical professionals in most families. So I was expected to take like the very typical professional path. And if my parents had their way, I would be probably working for like an engineering firm right now. I went on to do my 5 years course in law. So I got recruited by one of the top paying law firms of the country. And I worked in Bombay in a law firm for about a year. So my greatest moments of revelation basically came to me while I was sitting at my desk job, staring into my computer screen. And the question I asked to myself is it what I want to do for the rest of my life? I was working graveyard shifts literally every day, from morning 9 to 9, 3 o'clock on a regular basis. And I'm like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to do something a bit more meaningful with my life. And the question that I had to answer to myself is that, do I want to spend the rest of my life earning a living, or do I want to live? So that was the question that I asked to myself, and the answer was that, look, just forget everything else, take a leap of faith and just live. So I one day just put in my papers at my office, and I remember my boss telling me that, are you sure you want to do this, because you're kicking off like an entire lucrative career, and for sure you're never going to get like a second shot at this. So I was like, I'm very sure about what I'm doing, and I know I'm taking a calculated risk, but I want to do something more meaningful and different with my life. But I still had no clue what I was going to do. So I just, did the thing which just came most naturally to me. I just went traveling. I went for this overland trip to Lucknow. Now, while I was in Lucknow, I met this rickshaw driver who said that, ma'am, you're so close to Nepal. Why don't you go to Nepal? It's so close by. It's a shame if you're not going to Nepal. I'm like, hey, that's a good idea. Let me just go to Nepal. So my husband was with me, and I'm like, let's just go to Nepal. And he's like, you're completely out of your mind. Let's just, go back home. I said, no, we're going to Nepal. So we went to Nepal, and we landed up in Kathmandu. And when I came to Kathmandu, I saw these, travel agents selling trips for Tibet. I'm like, I'm so close to Nepal. Let me go to Tibet as well. Why not? And we had like no warm clothes on us. It was actually summertime during that time. We had no woolens, nothing. We didn't even have enough money on us at that point of time. So I, went to my husband and said that let's just go to Tibet as well. He's like, I think you seriously need like a psychologist at this point of time. I said, look, we are so close to Tibet. It's a shame. Let's just go. And I think we just dug into our ATMs. We went there like 2-3 times because our ATM wouldn't even let us take out the money which we required for the trip. So I spent all my savings that I had saved in my 1 year of working at the law firm to do this fantastic overland trip to Tibet. And I think certain journeys just change your life forever. Like when you are standing on the highest plateau of the world and staring at the highest peak of the world, if you come back the same person, I think you're just completely, you don't deserve to live, So when I came back to ground zero, I was very clear that, okay, my life really needs to change and find something a bit more meaningful to do. So I kept thinking, I was at that time writing for some publications, travel writing mostly, and all I found myself doing was researching on the destination I want to go to next. And I'm like, I have been traveling for some time solo, and I hadn't seen too many Indian women at that point of time, traveling on their own. I'm like, what if I start a travel forum for women? So I was, lying in bed one night and just thinking about it. And it was like a burning thing which was there in my mind. And I always believed that, I've heard this, that, when you have a dream, it should not let you sleep. And that night, I actually experienced that. I could not sleep that night. So I just woke up the next morning and said, okay, I'm going to be starting this. And I didn't think too much about it. I think one thing which I would like to share with all of you is that if you're thinking of starting something, don't overthink. If you want to start something and you get that inner voice saying that please start, please go ahead and do it. So next day, I just figured out that, okay, I want to start off with Ladakh, because at that time it was not a very well-traveled destination. And I had just come back from Tibet, and I knew the kind of issues that happen in high altitude destinations. So I just announced a trip to Ladakh. And, trust me, in 3 months' time, call me beginner's luck or whatever, I had 25 women on board. Now, okay, so far it sounds like a really, very easy transition. So I'll just talk about a few concepts with you. Okay, my thing was a zero cash business model, honestly, because I had no savings. And to whoever I spoke to about starting a business, they're like, you've totally lost it because you don't even have money capital to invest in your business, I'm like, I don't have the capital, but I know I can do it. So let me experiment with myself. What is the worst that can happen? Failure. What do I have to lose? Nothing, So I'm like, let me just start and let me just see what happens. So I started my zero cash business model, literally, which I'll share with you. Now, just to take you back to your economics class of class 10 for a minute. Now, what are the factors of production in economics, really? It's land, labor, entrepreneurship, and capital. Now, what most of us probably don't have here sitting in the audience is probably land and labor. But what all of us have here definitely is entrepreneurship if you want to start off with a new project. And the other thing which you are not too sure about is that do I have the capital to start off with? Now, the mantra number 1 is that do not confuse money with capital, which I find a lot of people doing. Now, just one more second. Capital is anything that is used in the production of other goods and is not used up immediately in the process of production, unlike raw material. And only money used in the production process is capital. Okay, that's the end of the economics lesson for the day. Now, one type of capital, which is as per famous economists, is human capital, which includes individual capital comprising talent, ingenuity, and leadership, which I think each one of us sitting in this audience definitely has. So next time you hear somebody saying, I do not have the capital to start a business, please ask them to get a reality check. So, if you don't have enough money to invest in a business, you still have your individual capital and entrepreneurship to start a productive business. Now, how did I start my zero cash business model? Most importantly, be absolutely honest to clients. Don't try to pretend that you're not a startup because you are a startup. And trust me, if you are selling a service which a client wants to buy, he would have read up like 10 times more than you have researched about it. So do not lie to them saying that, I've been in business for 2 years or whatever, they'll find it out. And the benefit of being honest with clients about it is in case you have make any errors or any mistakes, they will give you that second chance and they will be with you throughout for a much longer time period. You have to have a good product knowledge, which I said. You have to have innovative ideas. You have to stand out of the crowd. If you're selling the same thing which the person down the road is selling in exactly the same way, then you are not going to stand out in the crowd. So just think out of the box. Think what is it which the market needs, which I can deliver in a fresh and a new innovative manner. What I did that time, there was Orkut, which was there before, the rage before Facebook. So now you hear about social media, like advertising and marketing and all that. That time it was just social media networking on a social level. I remember this is like 5 years back, I wrote to around 1,000 women saying that, look, I'm a lawyer looking to take a leap of faith and start a travel club for women. So would you like to come on board for my first trip to Ladakh? And I actually got some of my first clients on these social media sites. The other thing which I did was place, my information about my upcoming trips on free listings in newspapers and magazines. There are magazines like Time Out, Midday, etc., which actually have free listing sections where they actually list innovative ideas for free. You don't have to pay a penny for it. And a lot of my clients actually came in through all these free listings. So my first few trips happened without me having to spend any real money on advertising. It was just, putting in your time and your skill into figuring it out. Okay, how did I convert my weaknesses and my hardships into strengths? The biggest challenge I had was my family. They were just not convinced. They were like, how can you just leave a job which pays you so much after 5 years of spending time studying it and just give up into something you haven't done before. So I really, really had to work hard to prove myself. The other thing is that clients can be absolutely ruthless critics and women can be absolutely ruthless when it comes to ripping you apart. So that really helped me personally, and I really thank them for it because it helped me to raise my own bar. And I was able to convert them into loyal customers. Like there were so many instances of them yelling, saying this is not okay. I used to actually meet them personally, understand what went wrong from my end, and made an effort to correct that. And those clients have been loyal to me 5 years down the line. Now, I was a sole proprietor, I still am, and I am up against big sharks and big companies in the market. How do I survive? Why should a client come to me and not to a bigger travel company down the road? So what I do is I offer personalized service, I offer class and not mass. That is my way of survival. So I think whichever is a weak point, you just convert it into a strength and you are going to make it big. Okay, this is like why I started an exclusive travel club for women is a question I get asked very often. Why the discrimination? I feel personally, the way a woman looks at the world is very different from the way a man does. I wanted to get women out of their role-playing modes of being mother, wife, daughter, etc. in typical family holidays and just be on a trip where they could just be themselves, do whatever they wanted to do. I wanted to offer women a safe forum to travel because the main issue why women in India were not traveling on their own was safety. So I wanted to give them a safe forum to travel. Now, women in India especially, they face a lot of abuse within the family and at workspace and a lot of stress-related factors. I've actually seen psychological transformations of women who've traveled with me because traveling itself for me is a kind of meditation. It changes you forever. Whatever, spas in Thailand, etc., a little bit of retail therapy, not having to deal with husbands and boyfriends. Some of my unique memories down lane. We have a mud spa in a field in Konkan, a traditional cooking session in Bali, boating on the Mekong River, horse ride in a Vietnamese village, pottery session in Madhya Pradesh. We went to a SOS children's village in Vietnam on Women's Day, to spend some time with the children, in Ubud in Bali. Some media reviews, you could just whatever. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.